Welcome to Milk Trunk, an award-winning parenting podcast brought to you by Bobbie, an organic and mom-founded and led infant formula company in the U.S. who is on a mission to create a parenting culture of confidence, not comparison. I'm your host, Tabria Majors, and I'm thrilled to be here for Season 2 for Milk Trunk at Dear Media. I am a model, influencer, and new mom who is figuring out this whole parenting thing one day at a time. If you don't already know me, you're about to, because in today's episode, I sat down with Bobbie's Chief Brand Officer, Kim Chappell, as she interviewed me. We talked about all the feeding methods I've tried, parenting information overload, and what maternity leave and going back to work looks like, and much more. And nothing's off the table here. We talked about my home birth, co-parenting with our partners, and so much more. So let's dive in. So, surprise, I'm actually the first guest.
The flip of the script today. Yeah. Thank you for joining me today, Tabria. I'm so excited to chat with you. I'm Kim Chappell. I'm the Chief Brand Officer of Bobbie. I kind of can't believe that we're sitting here in LA right now in the Dear Media headquarters for the second season of this podcast.
Very exciting.
And that you, the icon, the new mother, the queen of Instagram, is our new host of this podcast.
Yes.
Thank you for being here and thank you for going on this journey with us.
Oh my gosh, of course. I'm honored that I have the opportunity to do this. I'm a huge Bobbie fan, so it was a no-brainer.
And what I love about you, we've been getting to know each other, and Celeste on our team was like, we need to work with this girl in some way because you have done such a beautiful job of threading the needle on how you show up in social media. And it's not just mom influencer content or super niche. You are just so authentically you in every single way. And I have to say, your content is really entertaining.
Oh, thank you.
I was scrolling through it today and I'm like, oh my God, she's hanging out of a helicopter. What? You're committed to the craft. I do need to know, did you feel safe in that moment?
I'm not going to lie. I honestly did not feel safe, but I was 100% totally safe. I had a harness on. There was somebody physically holding me inside. So it was totally safe, but I was very scared.
And now you're a mom. You're a new mom. Yeah. So you have to think about hanging out of helicopters now, Tabria.
I think twice now.
Yes. Okay. So, and this is how we've sort of come to be together today, is that you are a mom to a sweet, precious 7-month-old baby girl.
Yes.
Whose name we will not tell you. And I love that. You're guarding that for your baby. But I do know the name and it's beautiful. So I'll say
thank
that.
you.
I would love to hear from you, stepping into this new role as mom.
Mm-hmm.
How has that been for you?
It's been a whirlwind. I have learned a lot about myself, about relationships, about motherhood, obviously, in general. But I've enjoyed most every part of the process. It's something that I always felt called to do, to be a mom. So I'm taking it in stride. I take it day by day. I'm really trying to just not let little trivial things stress me out anymore. If something's out of my control, it has nothing to do with me. I don't even worry about it. But I'm just so obsessed with her.
Yes, as we all are. I think about the difference between how we parent, how our parents parented.
Oh, yes.
They didn't have Google. They didn't have cell phones. They had a landline that maybe they could call somebody or a book that they could read. We are overloaded with how-tos, what to do, where to go. And the sources of information can get really blurry because there's pediatrician, there's parenting experts, and then there's people that think they're parenting experts that are trying to sell you an MLM or something. So how do you cut through the noise? What are your sources for finding the right information as a parent?
So honestly, I try not to listen to my parents as much. I know that sounds so bad, but I was raised by my grandparents. So that's totally different generations. And honestly, my grandma doesn't even offer anything. She knows it's so different nowadays. But, my boyfriend's mom, she has a lot to say, has a lot of opinions to offer. And I take it in stride, but I take it with a grain of salt. And I just don't think they realize how much things have changed. And so many studies have been done to support why we're doing the things that we're doing. But obviously, my pediatrician, first and foremost. And I have a couple of mom friends that I lean on for support as well. But obviously, I go online, it's overwhelming, the information that you can find online, because you can find any claim to support what you're leaning towards, So there's a lot of conflicting information out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I just try my best to find professionals in their field to figure out what I need. So I follow a few pediatricians, I follow a few educators, but I try to not put too much emphasis on other parents' opinions that I don't know. It's honestly a gut thing.
Yeah.
Maternal instinct is so real, and you're going to have a feeling of which way you're leaning one way or another about every decision when it comes to your baby. So also just listen to yourself. You may be a first-time parent, but you'll have an instinct about these things. So follow your gut too.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And then when you have your second baby, it's so, you feel so good about what you're doing. It's like the hindsight has given you the experience where you know that you are making the right decision for yourself and for your baby. One of the things we like to say is we have Bobbie daddies. Who help us, who help us, these modern dads who are dialed in to being a parent, and they're present.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's this really toxic trope online of these dads who are incapable of doing anything without the wife home. And the moms on our team and the moms that we hear from in our community have a different story to tell. And it's also generational. Millennial dads spend 30% more time with their babies than their dads did with them.
Oh,
so
wow.
like a big leap in the generation.
Yeah, that's amazing.
What does that look like for you and Trey? Shout out to Trey Hale, the actor.
Hey.
Go follow him. What does that look like for you guys in your house? What does the modern division of labor look like in the house?
We share an equal load of labor in every respect, whether it's caring for her or cooking or cleaning. That was something that, not that I had to make sure that I told him everything's going to be 50-50 in this house, but I did have a conversation with him like, we're going into this together. I don't know what to expect. I know you don't know what to expect, but I know you're going to be a great dad. And, you can really tell how good of a dad someone's going to be how they care for you when you're sick. Because, when you're just totally out of commission or...
Wait. Say that one more time, because that is really important for all you girlies out there looking for your husband. Here's the hot take from Tabria.
You can tell by how they care for you when you're sick or just out of commission in some way, how he cares for you, how he shows up for you when you can't do anything for yourself, how he keeps the house in order, just the day-to-day things. If he can do that, he's going to be a great dad. They call them airport dads now.
Oh, what does that mean?
Yeah, like when you have a dad who keeps track of the flight times and all of the boarding passes and all the luggage, like an airport dad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, an airport dad. I'm thinking about my husband who has got the car seat in a bag on his backpack. He's got a child riding a suitcase. He's holding the diaper bag on one hand.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you guys do have a really equal playing field at home.
Like the first month postpartum, he did everything. Wow. I don't even think I changed a diaper until like week 3. Yeah. But he really stepped up and he made sure that we both were well taken care of. And he's just so attentive and he's sensitive and emotionally intelligent. And I'm so thankful that I have a partner who is just so present in my life and in my daughter's life as well.
That's beautiful. It sounds like a good Bobbie daddy. Does he help with the feeding?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
He fed her all this morning. I didn't do anything.
I'm a mom of 3 too. And I think that first transition into motherhood with your first, it feels like your whole world has been flipped upside down in both a beautiful and magical way, but also in a sometimes confusing way or a depressing way, to be quite honest, where a little bit of that time and that space and that energy that you had for yourself is gone. And it's replaced with the beauty of raising a baby. But there is a sadness, I think, in a little bit, if we're being honest. Did you feel like there was a disconnect between how you showed up previous to being a mom and now how you show up as a mom? How has that transition been?
Yeah, I still feel like I'm figuring that out, to be honest. I was so nervous about work, both modeling and social media. I didn't know if I needed to change my persona because you hear, you're a mother now, you need to carry yourself differently. You can't dress this way, you can't act this way. Sometimes I really got in my head about that. But I've just tried to be my authentic self and not get caught up in other people's ideas of me, because I know that I'm a good mom to her. I love her so much, and I'm never going to let anything that I do negatively affect my relationship with her or how I parent her. So I just try not to think about it too much and just show up as genuinely as I can.
And you said something really interesting last night, that you don't want people to expect to see your baby every time they come to your Instagram feed or consume some of your content.
Yes.
Why is that?
I think there is a lot of issues surrounding family content nowadays. I think a lot of parents can get too wrapped up in their baby being the main focus of their page. And obviously, I think people can do it respectfully, but I don't want her to look back on these videos that I've made of her and feel just icky about it. The thing is, a lot of people will come up to me out in public and they'll recognize me from Instagram. They'll be like, oh my gosh, Tabria, I love you. But I would never want someone to come up to my daughter and feel like they can just say, oh, hey, if they knew her name. And she would be like, who are you? Like, I don't know who you are. That just seems really off-putting to me. And I don't want it to be confusing to her either. So I like to create that separation. When you come to the page of Tabria Majors, you're going to see me. It's all about me,
Right.
If she wants to create social media when she's at an appropriate age to do so, she can do that.
Yeah. And I feel like it's changed so much, right?
Yeah.
Like it's hard to just have a simple, innocent share with your baby without getting in the crosshairs of the trolls and the keyboard warriors and all the stuff going on with AI. And I don't know, it's a wild west out there now.
It is.
It's not quite as simple as it used to be.
No, it's very scary.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't want to deal with any of that.
I also want to talk about the fact that you had a home birth.
Yes.
And you shared that home birth.
Yes.
Like pretty boldly. Can you tell me about that decision on why you decided to do that?
Yeah. So I'm actually the first in my friend group to have a baby, but the people that I do know who have kids, most of them had a very negative experience with their hospital births, whether it was issues with the epidural or mistreatment from their doctors or not feeling like they could advocate for themselves. It just seemed like a lot of trauma surrounding that. And so I started looking up home births, and it seemed like a more peaceful situation, as peaceful as labor can be, right?
Right.
And then I started looking into it more, and I never saw any plus size women have a home birth. And so I was like, okay, let me dig deeper. I mean, in all of my searches, Google, TikTok, YouTube, I came across literally a handful of plus size women that had a home birth. And then I was like, why is that? And I saw the correlation of plus size women who had C-sections. And I was like, man, they really don't think that we can do this. There's all these stigmas of bigger bodies in the medical industry. And I could just feel that between the difference in my appointments with my OBs and with my midwives. My OBs were great. They're all minority women. I love them dearly. But my appointments with them were 5 minutes versus my appointments with my midwives were an hour. I remember I had one appointment. They told me my OB was running late to our appointment because she had to go to a delivery. And then she made it back in time for me. And I was like, so you had time to go deliver a baby, make it back to my appointment. You're the person that I'm seeing that I trust throughout this entire process to deliver my baby. And I'm only going to see you for like 2 minutes. So who else am I going to be with?
Right.
It was just
Why do plus size women have higher C-section rates? What's going on there?
I guess they automatically put us at high risk. I remember at my first appointment, after my appointment, we left and I just went through my chart just to see like what was in it. And they labeled me morbidly obese. And I saw that and I was like,
what?
Man, like I'm on the brink of death, like it was kind of scary reading that. And just hearing my midwives, my weight was never an issue. It was never brought up. And it just made me feel so much more comfortable just having like a safe space to express myself and any concerns I have. It was never a red flag to them. Whereas with my doctors, oh, that's a red flag, And I won't say they pushed for me to have a C-section, but they kind of encouraged it. At my 20-week anatomy scan, they said that she was reading large and that I should be prepared to have a C-section. And every ultrasound I had after that, it was mentioned. And my midwife said, Tabria, you can have this baby. Like, look at you. You're a big person. You're going to have a big baby. It just makes sense. You can have this baby. I'm like, yeah, I think so too. But this is what they're telling me. But I'm so glad I went through it. I'm so glad that I trusted myself and my midwives to go through this process because it was really beautiful. And then when I posted it, so many other plus size women said that they would feel comfortable enough to at least look into it. You know, there's a lot of misconceptions around home births, a lot of, scare tactics people put out there about it, but it can be a really beautiful experience.
It can be beautiful and it can be safe. And I think that's a difference. At Bobbie, we have worked with For Care for Moms, with Elaine Welteroth, with several organizations to talk about why, especially women of color, are seeking out home births, because 84% of these deaths that are happening in the maternal mortality crisis can actually be prevented because of midwifery and midwifery care. And I'm curious, you came into it as a plus size woman, but also as a woman of color.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were going to be in any more danger in a hospital system because of that, or that you wouldn't be heard or you wouldn't be listened to?
That was definitely a concern of mine because of people that I knew who went through that same experience. But that's why I purposely sought out doctors who were of color. And they did make me feel comfortable in that respect. So I will say that. But I know that is a huge concern amongst women of color, and it's valid.
And also, like, home birth is also not right for everybody. But
of course,
I think for me, even just like I had 3 C-sections, 9-pound babies in the hospital. I never even thought about a home birth or midwifery. I didn't even really know it was an option. And I think as a company now, our whole brand is built on supporting the choices that are right for each individual parent across the spectrum: formula feeding, sleep training, how you give birth. You should at least know your options in this space, right? Like, there are wonderful midwives out there who are happy to help you with a home birth if that's your choice, as a plus size woman or not, as a woman of color or not, that there are all kinds of options out there for how you want to bring this baby into the world.
Exactly. I agree.
So how was it holding her for the first time?
I mean, they say when you hold them for the first time, like, everything just sweeps over you and the pain just doesn't even matter anymore. And it's true to an extent, but it was just so amazing. It just felt like everything was worth it. All this stuff that I went through, it was so worth it to get to this moment. And she was just so little, and it was just such a special moment. And I'm so glad I got to have that. I got to have my golden hour, of just bonding with her during that time. My boyfriend got to have his skin to skin. It was a really beautiful experience. I'm glad that I didn't, give up and go to the hospital, because there was a point in time where I wanted to, but I just stuck with it.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that story with us.
Of course.
I do want to talk about, your career as a plus size model and how you show up with your body, but also with your voice. And I just think that I love how bold you are. Like,
thank you.
I was like, fuck yeah, we got to work with this woman. And I do kind of want to get your hot take on body positivity, inclusivity. Feels like it's a little bit under attack lately. Do you feel that? What's your position on how it's evolved or changed since you started in this?
Honestly,
space?
I feel like it's non-existent now, which is very disheartening to see, and to kind of realize that body positivity or body neutrality, whatever you want to call it, it was a trend. It was something that brands could capitalize off of to make it seem like they were inclusive. And now, I hardly see any models who are over a size 14 in campaigns anymore. There's only one brand that I work for where there are other plus size models on set. And I talk to all of them, and, they say the work is just really not there anymore. Some are having to get other jobs to support themselves, whereas they were full-time models before. So it's very disheartening. And I mean, the wave of Ozempic, it's just affecting everything. But
yeah, do you feel like Ozempic has changed the idea that you should embrace your body as it is? I mean,
of course. I mean, it's like they're shoving down our throats that thin is in now. I mean, heroin chic is a search term again. It's wild to see. And it's very unfortunate because there's still there will always be a huge market for the plus size customer, even if you're not thinking of it from an ethical standpoint. think of it from a business standpoint of
Yeah.
all the dollars that you're missing out on and the opportunity there. But all I can do is just show up and advocate like I've been doing. It's just very disappointing.
I feel like body positivity, body neutrality, even seeing some of the cuts that are happening with DEI and people that are leading DEI within large companies or universities are also being cut. Like, these things are not trends.
No.
These things are things that need to be built into our systems. And it's kind of disheartening to see in a way.
I agree. And I don't know what else can be done about it because it's been such a long fight and people have been voicing their opinions on this for so long.
Right.
And I don't know what needs to happen. We have celebrities who are a part of these communities. They talk about it and still nothing happens. So,
one of the things we truly believe in our core at Bobbie, as the only mom-founded and led infant formula company in this space, is really that when you become a mother, when you become a parent, you really do inherently become an activist, whether it's for yourself or for your baby, but you find yourself just getting a little more pissed off about things or like wanting to speak up more, wanting to make sure that she has the opportunities, my boys have opportunities, that I am being looked after as a new mother, whether it's at work, wherever I am. I would love to hear how it's maybe shifted that or lit that fire for you. How have you become a little bit more of an activist since becoming a mother?
Well, I will say I haven't had to quite be an activist for my daughter yet. Our pediatrician's great. Every concern I bring up to her, she's always thoroughly going through everything. But I'm preparing myself for the day that happens because I see how people react to other mothers who post about their kids or certain decisions that they make, especially when it comes to feeding. That was something that I really noticed. And I never really spoke about my feeding journey online. I wasn't shying away from it. It just never really came up. But seeing how people felt very fiercely about formula one way or another, it was just interesting to see. And I'm just like, why can't you just let people do their thing and do what's best for them? It's not that serious.
I mean, trust me, we know it's it's a very charged space, and we knew we had to have thick skin to get into this industry, but was the only way to really change it was from the inside out, and to try and not only create better products, but also create a genuinely supportive brand where people can find information about formula feeding, about combo feeding. Like, these things we felt as moms, and our CEO will say the same. She just had her fourth baby. They didn't exist, really. They were hard to find on the internet. Why was nobody supporting us in the way that you could easily go find on some of these breastfeeding forward websites? The two can work together. They should be talked about in the same forums, and people should have access to the information and education that they need around these topics.
Agreed.
I would love to double click on your feeding journey because this is like what we love to talk about at Bobbie. Like,
course.
I'm so aggressive. I'm like, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you. How are you feeding your baby? What do you need? So I would love to just talk about expectations versus reality. And I think that's where the disconnect can come, and the shame and the guilt can come, is when you think it's going to go really well, or you think it's going to be easy because you're a woman and you have breasts. You're supposed to be able to effortlessly breastfeed your baby. And it's not. You need help. You need the right support to make that work oftentimes.
Agreed.
Can you talk to us about how that went for you, and what were your expectations and what was the reality?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to try breastfeeding.
Of course, right.
I wasn't breastfed. My boyfriend wasn't either, but I was like, let me just try it. I was worried about it because I have breast implants. And so I didn't know if that would affect it or not. I remember when I got them done, my doctor told me there's like a 30% chance that I wouldn't be able to do it. So I was like, okay, well, I'll try it anyway, whatever. And it wasn't working out. Initially, we were doing weighted feeds before and after to see if she was gaining any weight. She was hardly gaining anything. We had an LC come and do all the things. It turned out she had a tongue tie. We got it fixed. It improved things significantly. But in the beginning, I wasn't nursing enough to produce enough. You nurse on demand or pump on demand to have enough breast milk for your baby. And I received donor milk initially. That worked for a while, but you need a lot of donor milk to sustain you, and it's very expensive. So then I was looking, at all the formulas or whatever, and somebody got into my head about a European formula, and I got it, and it worked for her. But my milk started to come in, so I started using that. Turns out I ran out of the formula one time. Anyway, it took way too long to be shipped to me. And it was like a minimum 1 week turnaround. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to forget to buy this. So then I remembered Ashley Graham did a campaign with you guys. And I was like, okay, let me just get some Bobbie and have it on hand. And we did. We've combo fed from the start, and it's worked really well for us. And recently, my supply just tanked. I have no idea why. But now we exclusively formula feed with Bobbie, and it's been going really well. I mean, she loves it. I don't think there's any shame around formula feeding your baby. I don't know why that is.
Right.
A fed baby is best.
Right.
No matter where it comes from.
Absolutely. And I love that you really touched on all the things. You just touched on breastfeeding, getting lactation support, using a pump, getting donor milk, switching to formula, foreign, domestic. Like you've really—
I tried everything.
You've tried everything.
Yeah.
You've tried everything. You recently posted on and told your community of followers that you were stopping breastfeeding and said it was bittersweet. And I felt that because when I breastfed my daughter for a year, I'll never forget, I cried so hard on that last latch because it was really just the end of this era of being the sole source of nutrition for your baby, which is both beautiful and exhausting, if we're being quite honest with each other. I would love to hear about that last moment for you and sort of that last latch. How was that?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't had a last latch yet because she uses me to comfort nurse just as
wonderful.
A pacifier.
That's so sweet.
It was sweet in the beginning, and now it's kind of annoying.
You're like, please don't chomp on my nipples.
Right, literally. And she won't take a regular pacifier anymore. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is life now. But so I'm trying to wean her off.
Okay.
But I have so much more time on my hands. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like pumping or nursing, it's a full-time job. It literally is a full-time job. And my boyfriend, he was saying to me, it's so weird to see you not pumping. All you were doing before was pumping. Even at work now, they're like, oh, you don't need to take a pump break? And I'm like, no. They're like, oh, we look forward to those. But yeah, it is a relief. I can get so much more stuff done now.
Actually, on that note, I just saw this thing that came in this morning that I wanted to share. There was a study that came in from the Infant Nutrition Council of America. It was 1,500 moms and caregivers who were surveyed. And they said that 55% of mothers working outside of the home rely on a mix of formula and breast milk. That was compared to 44% of moms who work inside the homes, like remote work, being at home. And then 36% of non-working mothers had to use the mix of formula and breast milk. So that, again, tells us that if you are home and you have time, your breastfeeding journey is probably a hell of a lot easier than when you're trying to figure it out in a workplace or with the pressure of work and kids at home.
It's so true.
And although it may seem counterintuitive for us as a company, this is the reason why we have actually doubled down on supporting paid leave. One of the many reasons, because if the government is telling us to exclusively breastfeed our children for at least 6 months, then fucking give us 6 months off work to do it. Why are we supposed to be doing all the things at all times and not getting the support that we need? And I really, really believe that if we can get the Family Act passed, we will see breastfeeding rates in this country go up.
I agree.
And you actually have an interesting maternity leave story, if we can call it that, because I think there's also like a misconception that, oh, well, you're a model, so you're fine. You don't need maternity leave. But if you don't mind sharing, can you talk to us about how you guys were like in a tricky situation because of what was going on? And you're a model, you're a content creator. You do not have maternity leave.
Right. I didn't realize that until I applied and went through the process. But freelancers, we don't have access to maternity leave because we don't pay into whatever tax it is. And I'm like, well, you pay taxes.
Yeah.
But anyway, while I was pregnant, my boyfriend, he's an actor, and he was on strike with SAG. And they were on strike for 7 months or something like that. But it was at the tail end of my pregnancy. So neither of us were working for over half a year, the year I gave birth last year. And it was very stressful because we were comfortable, but we didn't prepare for that.
Of course.
I didn't know that was going to happen. We didn't know the strike was going to last that long. And it was very scary. So I had to go back to work at 8 weeks. And that was sooner than I wanted to. And it was definitely hard. Like I hated leaving her that early, but you do what you have to do, unfortunately.
Physically, how were you at 8 weeks? I was still bleeding at 8 weeks.
I wasn't bleeding, but I had a prolapse and it was really uncomfortable, like feeling that all the time.
Yeah.
And just wearing like, tighter clothing that I just didn't want to do that. But it was hard. I was exhausted. I've never felt that tired before.
Yeah.
I
It's
was
full
exhausted.
zombie mode.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think reflecting back on it, oh my God, I'm having PTSD. It's like you're so tired that you're almost like the worst version of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
I just remember having no patience for anybody, anything. My husband, I had 2 other kids and a newborn.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have nothing left to pour from this cup of myself to anybody else. And then to have to go to work and try to be bubbly, to be present, to be your best self. It was really tough.
Yeah. It was absolutely the last thing I wanted to do.
But you had to, right?
I had to do it, yeah.
Do you believe in passing paid leave for this country? Where's your head at? And do you think that we can get it done?
I 100% believe in it. I hope that we can get it done. Seeing that statistic that 1 in 4 women go back to work at, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
That's absolutely asinine to me.
It is.
I could not imagine going at 2 weeks. 8 weeks I went, let alone 2. I was still in bed. I could barely walk at that point. I couldn't even make a meal for myself. I don't know how people are doing that. And I just feel like our country is just regressing in so many ways. But I really hope that we could get it passed.
Yeah, I agree. And you're not shy from being political, which I also kind of love.
Yeah.
And I mean, I will also say at Bobbie, we support parents from all 50 states, from all walks of life. And we try to take a stand on things that we believe impact our community, impact our team of parents. And when we say something, it has to be tied to action. So we have really put our team mobilizing around the Family Act, trying to see what we can do to get that passed. And then, we're in an election year, so things are heating up out there. People are talking about it. And I know you made a post on Super Tuesday in California and really put yourself out there on what your political beliefs are and what you want. And whether people agree with you or not, why do you think it's important that you use your platform to at least share where you stand?
I think a lot of people are very nervous when it comes to discussing politics because that's an area where people will just come for your throat.
How do you stay above the fray on the internet? Do you read every comment?
No, definitely not. No, especially if I know that it's going to be something controversial that I'm saying. I tend to just not even
You
open
just
those
say
comments.
It and then drop the mic?
I just say it and disappear. But I mean, I do like to see people's perspectives, even if it's on the opposite end. Because I want to know, why do you feel that way? But again, to your point, we can't even have civil conversations anymore. People just lack decency and empathy and compassion nowadays, which is, it's very upsetting. But yeah.
Well, that's why, and I do want to say for those who are joining, this podcast for the first time, maybe if you weren't with us last season, we created this podcast because we wanted to create a positive, safe space to have bold discussions where we do talk about political things or we want to have a position on things, but we'll also hear other people's opinions on it. When I see things from podcasts show up on Instagram, it can start to feel like clickbait. Like it's like you got to say something just to get the likes. That's not why we're creating this podcast. It is genuinely to be out there and help parents with a lively, supportive conversation on whatever the topic is. And that's why I feel like you're the perfect person for us to carry this torch this season. So I'm really excited to have you be a part of this.
Thank you. Me being a first-time mom, I'm going to have a ton of questions because we're going to have a lot of professionals on here as guests. And I will have my notepad ready, taking notes.
Amazing.
But yeah, I'm really excited.
I'm curious about how you think about the idea of what it means to be a good mom.
I think being a good mom is just showing up as your best self every day. But I saw this woman online say, the success of a child, and this is overall success, emotional, mental, whatever, the success of a child is determined by the mother's happiness.
Oh.
And if you have a mom who is struggling, who is not being cared for, who is not supported for in any way, is a single mom, whether she is actually a single mom or in a relationship where nobody else does anything,
right,
the child's well-being will drastically decline. And so that hit so hard for me. And not saying like, oh, my boyfriend, he just needs to cater to my every need now. But to make sure that I am okay mentally, physically, spiritually, because I am somebody who I'm a huge people pleaser. I will put aside my needs immediately for others, and I won't care for myself. I ignore a lot of negative triggers for myself. I don't address things, but I knew before I entered this journey of motherhood, I needed to go to therapy. I needed to address some things in my past, needed to get over some trauma. I knew that I needed to do that for myself to show up being 100% present and not bringing any negative trauma into this relationship with my daughter, you know? And so I think that's something that a lot of parents should do, address how their childhood might affect them presently, because once you address that, it will help you parent so much better.
I love thinking about it that way. And, now that you're saying that too, I'm thinking about my daughter is 6 and she's so perceptive. She is so switched on. And I find myself saying to her at the end of the night, I'm like, she's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, baby, I'm just so tired. I'm like, I'm just so tired. I'm going to go straight to bed after I put you to bed. I'm so sleepy. And then every time she feels like I'm off now, she'll be like, are you just tired? Are you so tired? And I'm like, I don't want her thinking that we're just going through life being tired. Like I need to be rested. And then I need to stop saying those things because they absorb it. They absorb everything you say to them. I also saw a thing on Instagram that was like, made me cry. And it was like, there's a day that happens where one day, it's like one of these emotional, one day, it's the last time you ever hold your baby.
Oh, I know. My God.
And so now I say this out loud and I'm like, I'm always going to hold you guys. So I pick her up. I'll hold her on my hip. She's 6 years old and I'll walk down the stairs with her. And I'm like, I'm going to keep picking you up, baby, until I can, because there's never going to be a last day where I hold my babies.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
They just laugh at it now. And they're like, even when I'm 20, I'm like, yes. If I can, I'm going to pick you up and put you on my damn hip.
I love that. I'm going to be the same way.
Any hopes and dreams for us on this season together as we go on this journey?
I just hope that we can have open and honest conversation about parenthood. I'm really excited about the guests that we're bringing on, people I know, people from the Bobbie community, the Dear Media community. I'm excited to share questions that I have, and hopefully that can impact some of the listeners and they can gauge whether they want to do something this way or that way. But I think it's going to be a really exciting season, and I'm really looking forward to it.
It's amazing. And how cool that we're here at Dear Media.
I know. Their studio's amazing, by the way.
It's just so great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tabria. We're so excited to have you on this journey with us.
Thank you.
You're an absolute rock star. You're doing a great job as a mom. We're so proud to have you in the Bobbie community and to literally hand you the mic for our brand this year.
Thank you again.
All right. Stay tuned, guys. More to come.
Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Kim for joining us today. Honestly, it's so amazing to be a part of the Bobbie family and to be on this journey myself and with other parents. We've got new episodes with guests every week, so please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single drop.